On this day, everyone in Seoul was immersed in a dazzling light. Someone has cleared the 10th main scenario. Congratulations, you have passed the 10th scenario. Those who were hiding in the corners of Seouldom to avoid the demonic people, and those who had barely survived on the first and second floors of the Dark Castle, all the incarnations who somehow survived the threat of the scenario received the same message. You have accomplished the Liberator of Seouldom achievement. Liberator. People didn't understand it at first, but their bodies were convinced before their minds. Their limbs cramped, their pupils expanded, and their lips trembled. You can escape the Seouldom. Their long wish had finally become reality. The people on the first and second floors of the Dark Castle were summoned out into the city. Then everyone saw the same sight. The Dark Castle collapsed with a loud sound. The terrible nightmare gripping all of Seoul collapsed like a sand castle. The broken chunks soon turned into powder. People were filled with unknown emotions as they watched the scene. "It is finished," someone said. "I can go out. I can live now. The hell is over." Some people felt it was the end of the tragedy. Compensation poured from the air. People had jubilant expressions on their face. Another tragedy might begin, but for now, they were enjoying the immediate feeling of liberation. However, not everyone shared that sentiment. "What happened to Dokja Ajashi?" Kim Dokja's group escaped from the Dark Castle. Jung Hee-won, Lee Hyung-sung, Lee Ji-hee, Gong Pil-do, Lee Gil-young, Shin Yu-sung, Han Soo-young. All of them were gathered in one place. They were those who survived because of Kim Dokja or those who owed Kim Dokja. Does anyone know? Please say something. Master, how is Dokja Ajashi?" The party members relied on their intuition to find someone who could explain the situation. However, the only person who could answer was silent. Yoo Jung-hyuk was staring at the collapsed Dark Castle with his mouth shut. Dark Castle collapsed, like history disappearing. Kim Dokja was in there. He died there. Yoo Jung-hyuk stared while confirming the fact over and over again. Kim Dokja was dead. How could such a thing happen? Yoo Jung-hyuk was unfamiliar with not knowing. "Yoo Jung-hyuk-shi, please say something, please!" Yoo Jung-hyuk stared blankly at Lee Hyung-sung, who was shaking him. The first regression and second regression, he had never seen Lee Hyung-sung make this face. Yoo Jung-hyuk rarely remembered the expressions that his party members made when they lost someone really precious. It was because he was always the one making such expressions. He was the only one who survived until the end of this tragedy and despair. By the way, this life was different. There were still many people by his side. He was suffering through someone else's death with them. "Yoo Jung-hyuk-shi." "Master!" Everyone was staring at him. They wanted him to say that it wasn't too late. Still, Yoo Jung-hyuk couldn't give an answer to these faces. "I also don't know." He destroyed their last remaining hope. Sadly, this was the role left to Yoo Jung-hyuk. "I don't know what happened to Kim Dokja." In fact, he could tell them more. Banishment from the scenario. He could share the information he knew. Or maybe he could testify to the feeble hopes he might have. However, Yoo Jung-hyuk didn't do this. He knew that talking about it would just be telling the party members, "Kim Dokja is dead. You can't do anything for Kim Dokja." Some people said more by not speaking. A few people accepted Yoo Jung-hyuk's silence, while others rejected it. Nevertheless, everyone understood the silence. "Dokja Hyung said so. He isn't dead. He will live again. Then why—" "Yoo Jung-hyuk-shi, please tell me how to save Dokja-shi." Yoo Jung-hyuk shook his head at Lee Gil-young and Shin Yu-sung's cries. If there was a way to save Kim Dokja, he would have already done it. There was nothing he could do. It wasn't just him. It was everyone. The constellation Prisoner, the Golden Headman, feels a great emptiness. The constellation Abyssal Black Flame Dragon is lying down. The constellation Sho Al-Ilpil has broken his pen. The constellation God of Wine and Ecstasy is looking at the abyss. The constellations of the Korean Peninsula are mourning the death of one constellation. The constellations on the Korean Peninsula remember someone's name. Yoo Jung-hyuk had never seen so many constellations talking about a single constellation. The arrogant constellations were expressing emotions other than frustration or pleasure. They became aware of new feelings. The night sky was shining with more color than any of his previous regressions. Sadness, great despair, sorrow. The night sky, made up of many constellations, was shining sadly. Maybe Kim Dokja was hope for them as well. It was hope to show a different story, something that could make a difference in the star stream. There aren't many ways. Looking at the dazzling star in the sky, regressor Yu Jung-hyuk had a thought. If I regress now... The ability to restart his life was like the button of a nuclear missile that could be prepared to press at any time. Yu Jung-hyuk was able to go back in time after dying and make better choices with the information he had of the future. If he returned now, then Kim Dokja might revive again. However, Yu Jung-hyuk, wake up! Don't think things will improve if you repeat them a few times. What if Yu Jung-hyuk went back and there was no Kim Dokja? Or what if Kim Dokja didn't act like this again? Yu Jung-hyuk was afraid of something for the first time. The Kim Dokja of this life might only appear in this life. Shin Yu-sung of the 41st regression never talked about Kim Dokja, and he never met Kim Dokja in the past few lives. Even if he went back to the past, the Kim Dokja of this life might not return. Thus, live this round properly. The choice that had always been possible was now irreversible. He met Kim Dokja in his thirst regression, and they became companions. Then he lost Kim Dokja. Don't imagine things will get better if you throw away this round. Maybe this is the round where you will see the end of this world as a human. Yu Jung-hyuk got up from his spot and bit his lips. Only these words remained. Just as everything in the star stream was a story, Yu Jung-hyuk couldn't help acknowledging that Kim Dokja's words were part of himself. Huh? Why aren't you moving? Didn't you receive the system message? The Dokkaebi dispatch from the bureau looked down at them from the air. I see. Everyone is mourning his death. The party members resented his ridiculing tone, but not everyone was the same. Jung Hee-won barely maintained her calm and asked, How is Dokja-shi? He's been expelled from the scenario. Can I ask what that means? Is he dead or alive? I also don't know. However, it is impossible to survive being expelled from the scenario, whether it's an incarnation or a constellation. That's all I know. Even a constellation couldn't survive. The party members stiffened at the words, and their expressions became colder than before. Lee Ji-hee retorted, Isn't there a way? A way to save... There's nothing you can do. Honestly, it's amazing that you still have this type of mindset. I will give you one piece of advice. Don't think about unnecessary things and focus on the scenario in front of you. You haven't escaped from Soldom yet. The Dokkaebi sneered and flicked his fingers, then messages once again poured from the air. The escape scenario has been given. Soldom will be closed soon. You have half a day to escape from the Soul Dome. The escape path is automatically provided. You will die if you don't escape from the dome within the time limit. Damn it! The party members looked at each other, but there were no solutions on their faces. In any case, there was nothing they could choose. Let's move. They started to move along the specified path. They ran, swam, or crossed railings as they constantly headed towards the outskirts of Seoul. Finally, the route markers ended and they faced a group of people. These people. All the remaining incarnations of Seoul Dome were gathered there. There were approximately 1,000 people. Some faces were familiar. Min Ji-won waved her hand towards the side, and there was also the reclusive Hong Don-hoon. They were all saved by Kim Dokja. Yu Jung-hyuk and the party members lightly nodded at the people they memorized. Here. The party members stopped at the same time and stared at the inner wall of the dome. It was a huge cage that had been trapping them so far. Now they had a chance to escape from this prison. Everyone was excited, but nobody took a step outside. They were like a canary that couldn't easily fly out of the wide open cage. Instead, the people were looking around for something. One by one, the gazes gathered. All eyes soon gathered on one person. It was Han Soo-young who opened her mouth first. Yu Jung-hyuk. Yu Jung-hyuk faced Han Soo-young. She didn't say anything, but Yu Jung-hyuk read her eyes. Don't waste the opportunity that Kim Dokja gave you. Yu Jung-hyuk blinked slowly and stepped forward. Numerous people were waiting for him. It was to celebrate the moment they were finally freed. Yu Jung-hyuk was troubled as he gazed at the group focused on him. Yu Jung-hyuk had been in this position several times in past lives. He was sometimes eloquent and sometimes a charismatic leader. It wasn't hard to find words to give the crowd. Then why? He didn't want to say such things this time. Instead, he said, "I won't give up on this life." Perhaps there was no one here who would understand his words. In the midst of the terrible loneliness that came from his face, Yu Jung-hyuk declared, "So don't give up either." He didn't know if it had been delivered or not. Yu Jung-hyuk turned away from the crowd and slowly walked towards the inner wall of the dome. Then, bang! Just one. Bang! Then two. His angry fists struck the wall. Large cracks spread through the inner wall of the dome, centered on the point that was in contact with his fists. It was a wall that couldn't be overcome after the scenario started. The wall collapsed slightly, and a gap that was the size of a human was made. It was a landscape that always existed but couldn't be overcome. Yu Jung-hyuk took the first step into that landscape. "Let's go." He stepped towards a scenario without Kim Dokja. In the darkness, the lone Kim Dokja finally woke up.